Uh, Great. Well, thank you, Tiffany and Tyler, for being here today. I'm really excited to dig into this content. I'm going to go ahead and kick things over to Tiffany to get started, and I will go off video, but will answer some questions on the fly and surface questions as they come up. But thank you guys so much for being here.
Thanks, Peter. And I'd like to extend a thank you to the whole audience as well for being here today. Tyler and I are very excited to talk about how to grow your food brand from farmers market to global success, and how Spiceology has partnered with BigCommerce to make that happen. So let's meet the speakers. Since I'm already talking, I'll go ahead and go. My name is Tiffany, and I am an e-commerce growth coach at BigCommerce, which means I work with folks to teach launch and growth packages. So we get people to launching quicker on our BigCommerce site, and then also teach them how to grow their SEO and conversion rate optimization. Tyler, go for it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tyler Botts. I'm Senior Director of E-commerce at Spiceology. I've been with the company for about 2.5 years, and just right about when COVID started. So I've been able to see some really interesting trends in the marketplace. And as far as for Spiceology, I manage the two websites that we have, which both use BigCommerce, and also run our SEO team and marketplaces team. And thanks for having me today.
So just to go through what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about Spiceology's growth and their journey. So excellent. Looking forward to hearing that. We're going to talk about managing a D2C, direct-to-consumer and wholesale business, so B2B. And then talk about potentially selling on marketplaces and what that would look like. And then we'll finish with a question and answer session.
Great. Thanks, Tiffany. So I'll jump in here. We're going to talk a little bit about Spiceology's awesome growth story that we've experienced over the last 10 years or so. It really started quite small with a food blogger whose name is Heather, and Pete Taylor, who's on the right there, who was an executive chef. And they had teamed up together to, they both had a love for food and for marketing, and they came together and kind of created this company based in Spokane, Washington. And the first seasoning that they came up with was called Smoky Honey Habanero, and it was a hit right off the bat. Everyone that tried it loved it, and so they really built the company off the back of that product. It's a really solid product. It's a top seller that we still have today, that we sell tons of units for. It's super versatile. And so given the success of that product, they started making other spices and seasonings that we call blends, which is basically a combination of different ingredients and things like that, and really expanding our offerings to include all kinds of different foods and cuisines and things like that. So really we had all these products, or they had all these products rather. And so the challenge was, how do we get these products out there in front of people? And so really, naturally you're going to start with a farmer's market or something local where you can start getting feedback about your product. But eventually they got to the point where they needed to get online and start selling their products to people outside of Spokane. And so that's really where the different channels come in that we'll talk about today, and some different, tactics for getting out there. Fast forward to today, we're working with giant wholesale accounts. We have a D2C chef and restaurant website, and then we have a B2B chef and restaurant website, and then our D2C website, which is spiceology.com.
Thanks, Tyler. So just a little bit about BigCommerce and what we do. We're an open SaaS platform where we give you an exceptional fundamental e-commerce platform to build your business, but we also allow you to use third-party solutions and apps, best in class, to kind of plug and play and create the type of shop that you are looking for. You get to create your unique vision with this type of business model. And we can service small, medium, and large companies. So companies of all sizes. And we continue to grow with B2B as well. So if you're looking for that function, we definitely support those. And we're definitely leading the way with that. What's super fun is I actually have a BigCommerce site as well. So not only am I an employee of BigCommerce, but I also have a side business, cheese business, where I have my own BigCommerce site. So built it from scratch. It's the whole 9 yards there. But my company is called Farm to Cheese, and we sell the best Vermont products, cheese, charcuterie, jams, all the good stuff, honey, that we can source and find. And we make charcuterie boards, grazing tables, charcuterie boxes, and also teach cheese pairing classes because I'm actually a certified cheese professional. But something fun about us is that we started with farmers markets specifically, and it was a good way to get to customers directly where they are. We could talk about our product, and it was just marketing in a way that you just can't really find, like grassroots. But now we're selling, our e-commerce sites. We do wholesale / B2B. And then we also do some gifting. So we were able to take that farmers market base and really expand it. And the fun thing is that I can do this all within my BigCommerce site. And I actually don't really need that many additions. So it's allowed me to really grow my business in a way that makes sense.
All right. Thanks, Tiffany. So I'll jump back in and talk about a few tips for looking at multi-channel. So when we're talking about multi-channel e-commerce, we're really talking about, you've got your website, your .com, and whatever you're doing business with online, but it's really thinking about that network of other websites that also sell your products and how all those work together. And so when you're thinking about growing a business online, you should be thinking about what are the next steps that make sense for our customer base. So depending on whether you're selling cheese or spices, you have to be aware of who that audience is, whose marketplace you're getting onto, and if it makes sense or not, because it can be pretty time consuming. It can take resources to manage a marketplace. To spin up a marketplace can take months, even years, depending on what you're going to do. So we really started with Amazon because we felt like it was a good, everybody's on Amazon, right? It's the biggest e-commerce website out there. So you got to get on Amazon. So we've seen some success there, as most companies have been. And you can see kind of a screenshot of the different varieties of products that we offer there, including gift sets, large container sizes, which are more for chefs and restaurants. But we've also got some smaller containers for home cooks and things like that. So one of the things that we think about when we go onto Amazon is what is the appropriate price points, how are people finding the products and things like that. And so Amazon's been great for us. We've expanded into Canada as well, which there's some logistical challenges for spices and seasonings getting into other countries and shipping and so forth. But both of those have done really well. And we've worked with other white labeling opportunities. Williams-Sonoma was another channel that we got onto early on that helped scale the business. And then we're also working with big food distributors like Supplies on the Fly and things like that help get our products in the hands of restaurants. But at the end of the day, what I would say here is you're thinking about your strategy, really be thinking about where your customers might be at. Don't just go over to Amazon because everybody's on Amazon. Make sure that it makes sense for your business and your company.
Hey, Tyler, we got a really great question actually on that slide. If we can go back for a second. And so we have an audience member asking about, what role your D2C site plays in your overall channel strategy, compared to wholesale channels, marketplaces like Amazon, et cetera. Just how do you think about, segmentation across those things?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you think about why someone might come to our .com as opposed to some other channel like Amazon or Walmart or something like that, it's typically because they're really interested in our brand. They want to learn more about our new products that are coming out. They want to check out our recipe blog. They want to, kind of be part of that brand and browse all of our products. And if we're talking about other websites that we're on, let's talk about Amazon again. We only have a limited offering there. So we really try and put products on there that we think people would actually be interested in instead of putting all of the products on there. So our .com is where you're going to come to find everything. And then our other channels are kind of, we have products on there strategically.
Yeah, it's just kind of piggyback on that. I mean, you hit that with the blog, Tyler, talking about like the community type aspect, like especially when it comes to food, we're all looking for inspiration and creativity and new ideas. And that's just stuff that you cannot find at something like Amazon. You got to go back to the website and get that knowledge and expertise from those sites. So back to you, Tyler.
Yeah, so originally we were on Shopify when I started with the company, and we found that for our particular goals that Shopify was limiting for us. So we really looked for a new platform that could help us expand into new channels and really scale our business. So we ended up using BigCommerce. Both sites are great for e-commerce. Don't get me wrong, Shopify is great and a lot of people use it. For us, BigCommerce offered some B2B tools that we weren't leveraging at the time. At that time, our website was kind of split between our user base was either a chef or a restaurant owner, or it was a home cook, like the people on this call, people that just like to, buy smaller quantities and enhance their dinners and things like, or barbecue, things like that. So we're really faced with like, how can we grow this business in two different directions at once? And BigCommerce gave us some of the tools that we were able to do that with. One of those was their multi-channel ability, so we can hook into other platforms, like I mentioned, Amazon and Walmart, eBay, potentially things like that, where you could sell your products. And they also offer great support. So for us, we really needed support. We're a small CPG startup, and so resources were constrained. And BigCommerce really did a good job of coming in and has come in and helped us. They have that great support team that's always available. And then, the last kind of aspect of it is we went with a headless approach. And what a headless website is we're basically taking that BigCommerce product engine, where you're going to have your inventory and your product images and all those types of things live. And then above that, we have our WordPress customer facing level, which is going to contain your blog and your PDPs and things like that. So it really gave us the flexibility that we're looking for, and it's helped us kind of scale into two different websites and grow our website traffic in many ways.
Yeah, so some tips for evaluating e-commerce, if it's right for you. Is your audience shopping online? Sometimes the answer to that actually might be no, but more often than not, you're going to find your shoppers online, especially with the pandemic and the way that shopping behavior has just kind of transitioned from that. Everybody's shopping online, and more people are shopping on mobile. So we need to think about how are we reaching our shoppers and our audience. And like I said, more than likely they are going to be online. Evaluate. You also need to consider if your team is actually ready for this. It does take some work to run an e-commerce side of things, but you might be surprised by how little it can take, or how, you can also put more intention behind it if that is the capability that you have. So some benefits that can come from your e-commerce site, Tyler kind of talked about it a little bit, is it can actually streamline your current processes. So if you imagine managing Amazon and your e-commerce site in two separate places, a BigCommerce site allows you to manage that all within one. So it could actually take away some time from what you're currently doing with shipping and things like that. So it could broaden that opportunity in more ways than just getting you to more folks in the audience. If you're, are you ready for potential expansion? So the last thing you want is to start an e-commerce site and then not be able to manage the orders that you're getting. So you have to really evaluate with your team, do you have the right people in place? Do you have shipping in place? If you're dealing with perishable foods, do you have packaging that will ensure that your product is getting to the people in the right fashion, like the right quality that you want it to be? Even spices, you have to worry about that because, potentially they're in a glass bottle, and how is that getting to them? So be ready with all those steps before you do take the plunge, because, like I said, the last thing you want is to start selling and then not be able to fulfill those orders. And then, do you have someone on staff that can manage the site? And not only do they have the time and capacity to it, but do they have the knowledge? And if they don't have the knowledge, how can we get them there? So with BigCommerce specifically, our support articles are really extensive. And we also, with my personal job, we do launch packages, right? So we teach people how to use the platform, so we can help you get there. But, is somebody ready, willing, and able to take on that project at the moment?
Yeah, and I think picking up on the point that Tiffany made about, are you ready to expand? You really need to be sure that you can take care of the customers that you are getting. So think about how much energy goes into, acquiring a customer, whether it's through a paid ad, whether it's having your in-house graphic designer come up with, some kind of an email template and then sending that out. It's really expensive to gain these new customers. So make sure that you can take care of them when they do come in. And if you go on to some place like Amazon or whatever it is and just sort of explode in that way, that can be healthy in one way, but it can also be damaging in other ways, where if a customer doesn't get the experience that they think they deserve, they may not come back. So just jumping into managing a B2B and a B2C food business, we rolled out our B2B website, which is chefs.spiceology.com, probably about 6 months ago, and it's gone really well. We had the kind of an idea that chefs really wanted to come to the site and do something specific. They knew what they want. They knew what they wanted. They knew how to use it, so they don't need recipes and things like that. And they really just want to come to the site and order something quickly and then go back to their job. And so we identified that was a need. And so we worked with BigCommerce to split off and help create a second website for us. And it's been great so far. The site is converting at somewhere around a 10 to 12% conversion rate, which is incredible. The average e-commerce conversion rate is about 2.5%. So we're doing really well there. We did correctly identify that they have a specific need, and we were able to give them that. So that's been great so far. The spiceology.com is really now the focus. We're pulling back to this idea of discovery. So we have a consumer that's coming to the site. They're not quite sure what they want, and we're trying to leverage different tools to get them to the spice or seasoning that they're looking for. And so the best way to do this is through recipes. It could be through our search and filtering capabilities. And even product recommendation tools. If you guys have a product on your website that you're trying to, or a product that you're trying to sell online, think about using product recommendation quizzes as a way to walk a customer through what they may need to know about your product to find the right product. And so that's been successful for us so far.
Hey, Tyler, two quick questions on that. The first is related to what you were just talking about in terms of the conversion rate. Just what are some good benchmarks and specific goals for success when you're just, starting on e-commerce? Are there specific things that, an early stage brand should kind of be thinking about as benchmarks for success, or things that they should be targeting?
Yeah, I think a good benchmark really depends on the product. So let's say that you're selling, $10,000, appliances online or something like that. You're going to see a different conversion rate than a $15 jar of spices. So it's really, I think measuring is where you need to come up with your own benchmarks and then building off of that. So if you're seeing that you're converting at 2% on your website over the course of your first couple months in business, really, start building off of that and trending that up, and then trying to find, really drilling down into why you think customers might be converting or where you're losing them, and then building off of that, and then measuring that month over month.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I have, sorry. Thank you. I have a little bit to add to that. Yeah. So, right off the bat, if you're a brand new business, converting at 2% is fantastic, right? But the average industry conversion rate is about 2.5%. You will find it being higher for your B2B websites. They tend to be more direct traffic. So people go there with the intent to buy, right? So those conversion rates will be higher. But I also want to speak to, if you're a brand new business, you will see kind of a plateau of a lot of visits and lower conversion rate. So it's hard to gauge within those first couple months just where that conversion rate will level off. So knowing those industry benchmarks will help you out a lot. But you will see, in my experience, that you get a high visitor rate and lower conversion rate, especially as a new business.
That's super helpful, Tiffany.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Is there another question there? Good.
Oh, yeah, there is. Thanks.
Sure.
The other question I wanted to surface here is, Tyler, you mentioned the shift between Amazon and D2C a couple times. Curious to get your take on, at what point did this happen for Spiceology, and just thoughts on in general, like at what point should brands be thinking about, going from farmers market to marketplace, and then marketplace to D2C? Is there one rule of thumb? Is there any wisdom you can kind of shed on what's the timing right? What timing makes it right to stand up your own D2C website?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it has a lot to do with, the resources. So let's say that you're doing really well at a farmer's market, and maybe you feel like you can support that additional business. So thinking about, if you get online, and are you prepared to sell, double, triple, quadruple the amount of what you're selling now? Do you have the logistics in place to handle that? And what are the costs involved with that, and so forth? So I think it's looking at it from a business perspective, is when you take that next step, really depends on the overall strategy, and it depends on if you can support that business. So I think when you've got a line around the block to buy your product, it's at a farmer's market, then it's time to go online.
Awesome.
Take that jump.
Yeah, but you can also do that simultaneously, right? And be able to drive folks back to your e-commerce site at the farmer's market. And there are typical like steps of growth. And I would say it's farmer's market to e-commerce site, because you'll see kind of incremental growth with that. And with the Amazon, you have the potential to go to an international audience, right? Definitely nationwide. So just make sure you're ready for being exposed to that type of audience. Excellent. Here's another example of, this is the at-home chef one, right, Tyler?
Yeah, so you can see on our site here that we've got, if you look up in the navigation, this is kind of a previous iteration. This is one that we're evolving out of. But this is when we were housing two different types of customers, and we still get chefs coming through and they're curious about our brand. So we're kind of keeping some of that language on there, but on the website, but we're really focused these days on the home and grill people. And those are going to be your barbecue grillers and people like that. And you can see the different categories that we offer here. We really want to give people an experience where, spices and seasonings are such a varied experience depending on what you're looking for. So you have your pantry staples like Aleppo pepper, which is we call home spices and things like that. But there's all these different use cases that people kind of come in and use. So our goal is to send them down that right path. And just so everybody knows, Spiceology has about 300 plus different products. So part of the challenge of being an e-commerce manager is figuring out how to organize all those and put them out in a way that a customer can easily find them.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Typically speaking, the more ways you can give a customer to find it, the better, right? Because everybody thinks of it a little bit differently. So I bet that is a challenge, Tyler. Yeah. So tips for growing your hybrid business. So we've been talking a lot about B2B and B2C and how those can play together. So are you ready to not only sell to consumers, but also to other businesses? So, businesses and customers have different needs. They shop in very different ways. Tyler talked about this, but with your chefs, they want to get in there, they want to place their order, they want to know how much it costs, they want to know when it arrives and just get the heck out of there, right? But consumers typically will take a little bit more time. They'll learn a little bit more about your company, your product, even, take a look at your blog, things like that. So your sites will typically be set up pretty differently. So consider having different experiences for these shoppers. With BigCommerce, I manage this through like our customer groups. So it's really just like, I offer different pricing and different quantities through that. But, the Spiceology example of having two completely different sites is an excellent one as well. So just keep in mind the value of the customers and the shoppers when you are creating those sites, and that will lead you in the right direction. And then also don't forget about the importance of SEO and finding organic shoppers for both B2C and B2B customers. Oftentimes for B2C folks, this can be overlooked, or I'm sorry, B2B folks, this can be overlooked, but our restaurants and chefs are oftentimes wanting to find inspiration themselves. So they are also Googling these same topics that we're as consumers Googling and searching and things like that. So starting out with high quality SEO content right off the bat isn't only going to help your B2C growth, but it's also going to help your B2B growth. So have a plan for that right off the bat as well.
Yeah, so we've talked about Amazon at length in this meeting and kind of this call and how Spiceology is using it. And so, like I said, we did expand into Canada, and ultimately, we want to be serving a broader base internationally and so forth. So we're definitely looking forward to that. And I would just reiterate the point here that, when you're thinking of these channels, figuring out the right product mix, the right price point, the right imagery, everything, the right messaging. It's all should be specific to that channel and not a copy paste from your website to another marketplace, because you really want to be unique for that specific customer.
Yeah, so some tips for you if you're looking to grow on new channels. And this is not just Amazon. I mean, this includes Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. All these places are available for you to sell on, actually. So research which marketplace is best for you. BigCommerce recently created a quiz. You can use this barcode to scan here, and it helps you answer a couple questions. It will walk you through the process, and it helps you identify which marketplace is best for you. So if you're ready to expand to Amazon, you can go with that one. But maybe starting off on Facebook and Instagram is the best option for you. Additionally, strive to drive traffic back to your site however you can. The more you can create brand loyalty, the better. And that usually means having a really good post-purchase experience. So how are you following up with those customers to make sure they're happy with your product? And if they're not happy, how are you taking care of them at that point? Evaluate your pricing and ensure that you're able to be competitive on all of the marketplaces that you're looking at. So Amazon, the values there are specific. They're looking for value. They're looking for quick turnaround, quick shipments, things like that. And pricing is highly competitive and also changes throughout the day as to what a competitive price looks like on Amazon. So you have to be aware of what is your pricing. Are you staying competitive? And if pricing is at a place where it's not a margin that you can deal with, maybe that marketplace isn't the right fit for you. So just take all these things into account, and then also, start small. Start with one marketplace and go from there. See how that one goes and how the growth impacts you and how that impacts your own infrastructure and team. And see if you can start to take on more marketplace and more sales after that. And so, I've mentioned it a lot, but the last thing you want to do is start selling these products and then not be able to fulfill it and losing that customer forever. And yeah, so you can learn more about BigCommerce on this website here, but also you can obviously check out bigcommerce.com, and Tyler and team has something to share with you as well.
Yeah, we're going to be offering 10% off of any of the products on our website through next week, a week from today. If you guys would like to go to �spiceology.com, you can use code BC10 at the checkout. Punch that in, you'll get 10% off everything on there. It's a great time to be thinking about holiday gifting and things like that. So come check us out at �spiceology.com.
Awesome. All right. Thank you guys so much. We've got a couple of really great questions in here. And for anyone else in the audience who has a couple of questions that they want to ask before we wrap things up in a little bit, now is the time to get some of those questions in. You guys cool if I go ahead and fire away on a couple of these?
Absolutely.
Go for it.
So we'll start here because I think, Tiffany, you were just actually talking to this point a little bit, but I'd love to kind of double click a little bit on pricing. So we have a question about, what are your guys' thoughts on how to find the right price for your for your product? I'd love to hear, Tiffany, you already talked a little bit about that. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and Tyler, I'm sure you have some thoughts as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, for me, it starts with what margin do you need to make your successful viable, or to make your business viable. So start there, start with the cost, right? And what margin do you need to make? And then what's your bare minimum? Because when we talk about B2B and also even Amazon, typically speaking, your prices are going to be a little bit lower because you're selling in volume as opposed to, it's quantity over quality, I guess, if we had to put it that way. But typically speaking, you're going to have a little bit leaner margin at that point. So for me, I definitely recommend you start out there, and don't bend on that if it's not going to be something that's viable for you. Tyler, what do you all use?
Yeah, I think when you're thinking in terms of other marketplaces too, each of those marketplaces is probably going to charge a fee as well.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly Amazon does, but anyone you go to, and whether it's going to be, think about advertising too. So a lot of the platforms that you're on have advertising opportunities. Are you willing to raise the price enough so you can cover your advertising, or do you feel like your ads are strong enough that you can make up for it through volume? And so be thinking about those two. You want to be competitive. If you're thinking in terms of understanding the marketplace, let's say it's one where the customer is just looking to really discover new products and so forth. You have to understand that before you start pricing your products, because someone may be turned off by your price point because they're really just looking for something basic. So really just understanding the landscape. And of course, there's all kinds of pricing strategy that could go into owning the premium product price versus the cheap price as well. So those are all things to consider.
Awesome. Great answers. Tyler, this is pretty specific to you. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. What are the kitchen requirements that you need to kind of shift when you went from farmers market only into like higher scale marketplace D2C environment?
What were the what requirements? I missed that.
Kitchen requirements, thinking through like production requirements and the changes there.
Well, the company scaled a lot. It started from, of course, just Pete and Heather, the founders that I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, hand packing spices and sending them out to people individually. And then, of course, it evolved into, staffing for production staffing. And then we brought on marketing and so forth. And, now fast forward another 10 years and we've brought in a lot of automated machines that have really helped, at least I think for most CPG products, you're going to have quality standards and safety and things like that. So those are things that come into play for us, at least working at the scale that we do. Inspections and things like that. The facility, we're now in a big boy facility that really has allowed us to scale and get products out there to the world. So I don't know what that looks like from a cost standpoint necessarily, but it all evolved really logically where we just kind of outgrew each situation, and you kind of know when the time's right to make that jump.
Yep.
Hopefully that answers this question.
No, that's a great answer. I'll just plug as well, if there's specific question kind of behind that on, the specific product that you're carrying, Mimi, I would encourage you to ask the question within the operations channel within Startup CPG as well. We have a lot of really great like scale experts in there, commercialization experts that are eager to answer those questions.
I can add in a couple other things there
Tiffany,
too.
please. Yeah, absolutely.
That was a consideration for me too. So, lots of places allow you to have a home kitchen license, right? So also I've partnered with a local bakery that makes pies. And so they don't use their bakery at night. And so I use their kitchen at night. Cheese is highly regulated and super weird. You have to cut it at a commercial kitchen. But that's kind of a low cost way for me to do that, right? And so you might find like a bagel maker or just something in your area that doesn't use their kitchen, full time or all the time, and just take advantage of that open slot. There's also a lot of commercial kitchens available that you can just rent space from. So definitely be on the lookout for that. But also what I have found is, there's a certain, Tyler, you spoke about this, like you're going to know when that next place is to grow. So you gain money, and then you make an investment on your purchase. So you're going to go even, and then you gain money, and then you go even. And it tends to be a pretty obvious choice when it is the next step and next time.
Yeah, it's a great answer. And we're all about scrappiness here within this community.
Yeah.
That's such a great example, Tiffany, that you gave.
Thank you.
This is totally aside the point, but I do want to know what it takes to become a certified cheese expert, or whatever the
certified cheese professional. Yeah, it's a good question. Yes, very official. So actually, you have to be in the cheese industry for a minimum of 3 years. And you have to take an exam that's only offered once a year at the American Cheese Society National Convention. And you have to go to the site where they're holding it. So I took my exam in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's not where I lived at the time. And it's 150 questions about all things about cheese, and only 150 people can sit for the exam. So it's a pretty limited crew.
Wild. That's so cool.
Thank you.
Okay, got a question here around, making the switch to Amazon, and I'll go ahead and extend that to marketplaces in general. Is that something that you felt like there was a need to get outside external help via, agency consultants on just thoughts about navigating that within your existing team versus looking for help out externally?
Yeah, so just so I'm understanding, is the question, how do we support Amazon? Is it internally or with an agency?
Yeah, both. And I would say now, but also like, as you made that initial shift as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so definitely started out as an internal decision. Kind of like I mentioned earlier on in the presentation, you're sort of dipping your toe in to make sure that if this thing does, are we able to actually fulfill the orders? Are we able to give the customer the experience that they deserve? And we found that scaling Amazon for us, or any of the marketplaces that we've tried, have really started with, dipping your toe in the water and sending up like a test batch of products to see how they do. And so we did have internal staff handle that initially. And then over time, as we started to get bigger, we brought on someone that was dedicated just to that marketplace, to really focus on optimizing the listings and making sure that we're shipping product up in a timely manner, following up on issues that might arise, things like that. So that was kind of our first investment, is where we brought someone in to really manage that aspect of the business. And then as we started to scale more, we became more, in need of branching out further. So we started leveraging Amazon ads, which are very competitive right now. They're expensive to run. So we really wanted to make sure that we were being as efficient as possible. And so just over the last few months, we have brought someone on that can kind of help from an agency that specializes in Amazon to support our internal staff and make sure that we're making the right decisions and that we have kind of a sounding board. But I would say, if you could definitely handle it internally to start, and then you should decide if you think that there's room to scale there, and potentially, what those costs are working with an agency and so forth.
Yeah.
I have some very random input information about Facebook and Instagram. So this is very specific to startups and brand new businesses, but you have to have a certain amount of posts and followers to even qualify to connect your business to the Instagram and Facebook marketplace. So just make sure that you're being active on both of those communities before you start considering those as potential channels to sell on. They want to make sure you're a valid business and that you're not, scamming. So these are the requirements that they have. So you can't just like create your website and then immediately connect it. So I just want to make sure I point that out.
Great. Okay, last question I've got here, and then if other folks have questions, please get them in now. Tyler, you've talked a lot about both D2C and the chef side of your business. I'm really curious, over the last couple of years with COVID, how has that impacted Spiceology and the business overall, but also specifically the online sales strategy that you've been pursuing? And has any of the things that we talk about today kind of been an outcome of some of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would imagine anybody that's kind of in the CPG space probably shared a similar experience to us with COVID. The fact that our products are widely used in restaurants and things like that really did affect our business. But what it also did was introduce us to a whole world of new consumers. People that had never shopped for groceries online or seasonings or things like that. So it was a great opportunity. The company made a pivot almost overnight to really focus our marketing on home cooks and grillers. And we were able to sort of ride part of that wave and pull in a lot of customers that were interested in shopping at home, while the restaurants and chefs, were kind of trying to figure out how to survive and so forth. And of course, we were supporting them the best we could, because we have a lot of great partnerships in that space. But we really shifted over to a focus on home cooks. And then since then, since COVID is sort of winding down, at least in terms of restaurants and things like that, everything's obviously opened back up again. That chef and restaurant sector has really surged again, and we've been able to retain our D2C customers. So it really, I would say for us, worked out really well in terms of growth during that time. So, and then the question too, has that influenced any of our decisions? I mean, certainly splitting off into a second site, we felt like we could support the traffic and the resources that went into that by having a second site for the chefs, and it's really paid off so far, and it's allowed us to go back and really focus on home cooks with our spiceology.com website. So
Awesome. Great. Okay, we got one last question in here, and I think that's a great question for both of you guys, and that is, how do you learn product feedback? How do you take consumer feedback about your products and evolve your decisions and how you develop products? I'm sure there's elements of that are through customer service, but I also imagine there's probably a process-driven part of that as well through the site.
you want to take that, Tiffany?
Sure, I can start with that. Yeah. So, product reviews are a really good way to start that. And a lot of e-commerce platforms have a built-in way to ask your folks to leave you a product review. But I spoke a little bit about that post-purchase experience for them. So just making sure you follow up with them and the quality is the way you wanted it to be. They enjoyed it the way that they wanted to be. I wait about a week. Typically, when it's something that we met at a farmer's market, if I'm delivering a charcuterie board, I'll do it the next day. Like, hey, how was it? Did anything not taste right? Whatever. I'm small enough business to where I can certainly manage that. It's not automated. But there are certainly really great third-party solutions out there that can help you with that experience. But I think, as a business owner, you kind of have to take that initiative because nobody's really going to take the time to leave a review or anything like that. You have to offer some sort of incentive. So that is my 2 cents on that one. And Tyler, love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Tiffany. I think there are some great third-party tools out there. And I think anytime, after that post-purchased that journey, there's a lot of times to kind of follow up with your customer and check in. And, of course, one of them is that post-purchase email or survey that you offer them. That's a chance right there where their shopping experience is fresh in their mind. They may not have much data on your product yet, but you can at least ask them how their shopping experience went. Get some good feedback from that. I think, we've got some, CSMs that check in, customer service team that checks in with them as well, or they might hear back. And that's a good way to kind of collect that data and parse it out. And we actually have chefs that work for Spiceology that create our blends and so forth. So they also have an ear to the ground with our restaurants and other chefs. They all kind of talk in circles and get feedback off of each other and so forth. So that's a great part for our B2B business. But yeah, I think consumers, there's things you can do on your website and again, this is more of a usability thing, but Hotjar is a third-party application that you can install on your website, and there's a feedback tab on there that regardless of what page your customer is on, they can leave feedback about their shopping experience and things like that. So I think it's just really reaching out to them, like Tiffany said, X amount of days after their purchase and trying to get that feedback, and then pulling that into the correct people at the company that can actually influence that change.
Yeah, and I just thought of something while you're talking. I also monitor social media, right? Like if somebody's leaving me some communication or talking about it, I definitely stay up to date. And then when we talk about developing new products and things like that, social media is really where I find that information. I don't know if you've heard of butter boards, but they're quite a thing these days. You should look it up. And so it's just, you'll find the new trends and things that are coming up just by staying in touch and you yourself being on social media and trying to actively find that information.
Yeah. Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for the time today. Super valuable, amazing discussion. I also can't wait to go get some stuff off Spiceology. So thank you, Tyler, for sharing that code with us. That's really generous. I'm excited to do that. Great. Well, thank you everyone for attending. If you had to jump on late and miss the beginning of this, there is a recording that will be sent out to this whole group. If you have any questions, I encourage you guys to connect with Tiffany and Tyler. And Tiffany and Tyler, are you guys both in the Slack? I think that's a great way for people to connect with you guys as well.
Not yet, but I certainly will be.
Yeah, I have not.
Great. Okay, we'll send you guys a link and make sure you're in there.
Perfect.
So we can find you. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks
for having us. I appreciate it.
Of course. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.